KONOS being focused on character, not about what activities you do, and unfortunately people are turning it into an academic manual and taking the knowledge out of it and making sure that children learn all the facts, you know, from that activity. If you're studying what the body under cooperation, you know, you're going to know what parts of the body do and how they function. You know, all this knowledge for the sake of knowledge, whereas it actually was about being cooperating with one another, the way our organs cooperate without strife and arguing. The heart's not going to go, well, I don't feel like beating today, because I mean, I've been beating all these years, and I've had enough. I don't see why the lungs don't have to do something. You know, they don't have this conflict inside of them, because God made them work uniquely together. So that's why we were studying cooperation. But unfortunately, people are turning it into an academic tool. Well, this has become an even more serious academic tool by people. People turn it into that very easily, not particularly looking at anybody in specific. So I had to help Missy to see that this is not going to be that. This is an extension of KONOS Elementary, and this is going to be your mentoring. This was nurturing and training your character. This is going to be your mentoring into adult life. And you're going to have to take each week, and these are the questions you're to ask. And I made up these 5 questions for her. And they were, what does God want to teach you at KONOS H.O.W. this week out of this manual? What activities are important to Him for you to pick? Not every activity. Does it matter if you talk about the oldest person you know and ask them to tell you what things were like when they were young? So Missy's comment on that is she can't really ask the oldest person she knows, because that would be her great-grandmother, and she's got Alzheimer's and she doesn't remember anything. So she took it really literally, okay? So we had to find another Alzheimer's. I mean, okay, so if we can't do these particular activities, it's okay, Missy. You don't have to do the activity. The point is you to take out of it what it is that God needs to train and teach you for womanhood. And we always went, just like I showed everybody with KONOS, how you do it. What are your objectives at the end? There you're doing obedience, and at the end, are your children obeying? Do they understand obedience to God? That's what your goal is, like at the end of the KONOS, junior KONOS manuals. It's the same in KONOS H.O.W. At the end of the week, you've got an evaluation. Are you ready for a successful year ahead? And if the question is, well, I don't know, how am I supposed to know if I'm ready? Well, because you've been having exercises here on how to plan your year, how to schedule, how to keep your time, and how to be realistic within that, and how not to be too slack on this side or too much on that side. Okay, that's what it's about. Do you have your reference material? Are you organized? Is everything in place? Because God is a God of order. When you get things in place, you'll find things go more smoothly. And so, and have you started writing on your journal? Because you're going to be learning a lot about journal writing, which is also important. Okay, so that's what I would do with Missy. I'd say to her, now I want you to go back into your week and look at the activities with being prayerful in mind. What does God want to teach you out of this? The second thing is to look for areas where you particularly have a weakness. Like, let's say, for example, Jamie just totally disinterested in journal writing. So clearly, he doesn't feel confident in that area. So then I would say to him, okay, every activity here that required you to write, you've avoided it. Right? So he would take the thing himself and go and read it and decide which activities he's going to do, and he would pick the ones that he was naturally inclined to feel comfortable with. And then me, as his mentor, would come along and say, right, you've missed all the journal writing ones because you don't feel confident in that, so you're going to do just one this week. Not the 6 that they were suggesting, just one, to try and help build your confidence in being able to be able to do journal writing. Because why not have that skill? Besides, it's going to equip you better in you being a husband and father. Because if you can write your wife a letter the way your father writes letters to me, well, she's going to be blessed. Okay, so give reason, a reason other than you just have to do journal writing. It's one of the skills you have to learn. What is the reason? The reason is equipping him to be a husband and father. And a man that stands before God, that is able to be used by God effectively. And it's the same as the woman. Are you training your young ladies for running a household, being a mother, being a wife? That's priority, because they're going to be doing that much more than anything else they do in their lives. Doesn't matter what career they choose, what they end up being or doing. The thing that's going to demand most of their attention is motherhood, being a parent, and running a household. Isn't that so? Moms sitting in the room? Is that so? Is that what demands most of your time? Whether you are involved in church activities or whatever, that is the thing that commands your attention and your time. So you better train your daughters to be ready for that. That was my mother's absolute focus. My whole upbringing was, I have the mandate to train you to be wife and mother and keeper of your home. That's what I need to train you in. Okay. So I know the incredible importance. No matter what God uses Missy, I mean, she's doing all the graphic work for Oikos, and no matter what He's using her in, ultimately, most of her energy and time and heart and commitment is going to be going into household, into family and husband and children. Ultimately, that's what's going to take up the bigger portion of her life. So knowing that that is what is the most important thing for me to mentor her in, that's what I use this manual for. Not so she remembered the different areas of history. I mean, the different towns, the Egyptians. Okay, we studied the Egyptians, but I'll get to what we could have drawn from that. But it's putting that bigger picture goal. What is the goal that you have in mind for why you're using KONOS H.O.W? Not so that you can write your CL education paper at the end, but so that you know that by the time your children, your daughters have reached adult womanhood, 18 to me is when they're accepted in society as being officially adults, and 21 is when they're like learning to be adults in the adult world between 18 and 21. They're having to learn how to be that in the adult world, and then after that it's kind of they're on their own, as it were, but you know what I mean. We're always there for that. But how do you see them at that time? Do you see them equipped to be able to be in university, or do you see them equipped for the bigger picture? KONOS H.O.W. helped us to equip them in the bigger picture. So to go back to those questions, I had those 5 questions that I gave Missy for her to consider when she chose her activities. And she had to keep coming back to those 5 questions. At the end of the week, I would have to ask her the 5 questions. She must answer them as well as the evaluation. Okay? Sometimes evaluation at the end of the week, we would cancel some of the things because we didn't necessarily think they were that as important. Have you written a paragraph in which you compare and contrast 2 things? If she did it or hadn't done it that week, it's not that essential.
Writing a paragraph in all respects.
Yeah, quite slim. It was more 10 pages. So here you have this evaluation at the end of the week. But I do just want to point out that the reason why they put that particular activity, because there's a whole lot of them in the evaluation, is because they are teaching the student about how to write in an adult thinking kind of way, to be able to compare and contrast things. So when you've written it, you've learned how to analyze, which means you've learned how to communicate that thing in the adult world. So you can be a person who manages well in business, for example, because you've learned how to communicate clearly and succinctly because of these activities. So we again saw these activities as activities in preparation for adulthood. Okay, for equipping them. So I tried to pay attention as best as I could to these particular activities because I knew they were all there for that purpose of the academic training as well.